Hey, what's going on there, folks? Welcome back here to a Thursday. It is the Earthmaster here, about 11:42 a.m. California time, June 20th, 2024. Latest activity here on the globe shows a 1.2 earthquake into the area of Nevada, one of the latest quakes there on the globe. Now, we did see a little bit of activity stirring up here in Southern California this morning. Still got some activity here on the southern end of the San Jacinto fault zone, but we did shake things up here a little bit with a three-pointer coming in about just about 2 hours ago here at the northern end, the interchange here where the this fault system meets the plate boundary itself, which is the San Andreas Fault. 3.0 coming in near the Devore area. Was felt by a few folks out here. Now, not a big earthquake, but definitely a little sign here of some uptick here going on across the Southern California area. 10 kilometers deep for this quake. Of course, this whole area has been having swarms off and on here over the last couple months. Ultimately, one day leading up here to the big one across the southern portion of California. This fault system here, plate boundary, the San Andreas Fault, is very capable of producing an 8.1 earthquake, and it's been building up some steam here for quite a while. Not only that one, but we have literally numerous other fault systems out here that are been building up steam and whatnot. I was just looking back here at the earthquakes here that have historically hit in this area. I pulled up 5.0 and above since about 1990. And I can't believe it's been so long since we've had the 1994 Northridge earthquake. That's pretty crazy. I do remember that. Of course, I was living up in Northern California, but I remember seeing this on the news, a 6.7. That earthquake striking on a thrust fault was actually a blind thrust fault, meaning that fault system was not visible there at the surface. And that was a pretty big earthquake. And I just can't help to wonder maybe how many other fault systems may be hiding underneath this area that have not been discovered yet. If you look at the general faults here, a lot of them run north to south, some up here across the mountain ranges, east to west. It's a huge cluster of dynamic faults and fractures across this area of Los Angeles. And, there's a lot of areas that are well overdue in terms of potential large-scale movement, and of course we got the San Andreas Fault over here, which everyone knows it's well overdue. But I can't help but wonder how many other fault systems are out here that we haven't discovered yet. But yeah, 1994, goodness. That, what is that, 34 years? If my math is right there, hopefully. Yeah, just a little bit over that. 18 kilometers deep on that blind thrust fault. And that was positioned, let's see if we can find it, north here, just south of the Santa Clarita area on a blind thrust fault. Right there where that star is, shaking things up quite a bit. They had some severe to violent shaking out there, maybe even extreme. So looking at 34 years of built-up strain just on that alone. Now this area accumulates about, let's see, where is that? That was a big earthquake, I remember that. But the accumulation slip rate up here is between 3, where did I see that? It caused a valley fever outbreak. I remember that as well. Goodness. It's over here on this one. That's right. So 3.5 to 6 mm per year. So that's already a little bit of accumulated stress that's built up here on this fault system, which they call the Pico thrust or the Northridge thrust fault. Obviously for more reasons there, but 34 years now gone by, strain built up here in this area, and we really haven't seen, if you look at historical data out here, we really haven't seen anything of major activity out here in Southern California here recently. Aside from the obvious, Ridgecrest earthquake, that's a ways away from the plate boundary, but still shows the great, incredible strain that's out here against the plate boundary itself. So there's many areas out here across Los Angeles that are well overdue. The San Jacinto fault zone here is a pretty lengthy fault, and if you look, at least since 1990s when I pulled this up, we haven't seen any major activity out here. Just a couple fives in the area where we're seeing a little bit of swarming here today. Going to be this clustering right here. That's not where the three-pointer struck. This is just an area that is seeing a little bit of swarming down there today. Could be a sign of maybe something bigger about ready to kick off out here. Could be a sign of any one of these faults or plate boundary here about ready to show some larger scale movement. So we've got this activity here, the swarming south, and then a three-pointer up north with the conjunction here of the plate boundary and the northern edge of the San Jacinto fault zone. So be on guard out here today. A lot going on in terms of swarming. Specifically on the San Andreas fault, pretty quiet right now. Further down south, a little bit of separate swarming here just off of the Elsinore fault. So regionally, this area is seeing some uptick here today, some increasing pressure in the southern portion of California. So just be on guard. I do like to go back and look at these and see, how recent we've had large earthquake activity. And a lot of the newer folks out here, the younger generation, have yet to experience a large damaging earthquake out here in the southern portion of the state. There was a 7.3 1992. That was literally a couple years prior to the Northridge quake. An overall strain out there. It's a lot goes on in this region here. It's a major interaction between two major plates. You've got the North American plate here in the brown, the Pacific plate here in the yellow color, I guess, kind of yellowish. And you can see the general plate motion here. The arrows indicative of the general plate motion. Now, that's just the plate as a whole. Pacific plate moving off to the northwest. The North American plate kind of moving in a somewhat of a counterclockwise direction here, as you can see. But specifically in this area of California, you got the northwest to southeast motion here with the North American plate, and of course the Pacific plate moving off to the northwest. And that right here, this area is building up a lot of pressure. It's not fused. What goes on down here across this area and other areas around the globe and around the Pacific plate can have an adverse effect here on the plate boundary in Southern California. We're seeing a lot of swarming kicking up here today, so just be on guard for some potential movement. That's the best thing we can do, is be prepared. It could strike at any time. Anything can happen at any time, right? Best to be prepared. Further up north, Northern California Bay Area actually looks super duper quiet. Nothing going on out here for now, except for the typical Clear Lake volcanic field up here, the hydrothermal plants that are in full swing. And that's, I try not to cover it a lot because we know what's going on up here. It's not a volcano about ready to erupt. It's these hydrothermal plants taking advantage of the heated areas below by, there's a whole process there I'm not going to go into, but it also involves earthquakes. There's the earthquake last night or yesterday there, just off the Cascadia subduction zone into the Cascadia Basin. Still keeping an eye on that. We have been seeing a lot of tremor up and down the entire length here of the Cascadia, more so than what we've seen here in a little while. So that's something to watch. And we've been seeing these periodic little earthquakes here back building, just prior to the locked area. The locked area is the Cascadia subduction zone here just offshore that is capable of producing at least a 9-pointer. At least a 9-pointer. Mount St. Helens here, a couple smaller earthquakes from yesterday, one after midnight. I was just looking at this. They still haven't got the gas emission stations up and running. They are all offline. Why? I don't know. Earthquake activity continues, though. They did put out a little update here a couple days ago on their social media pages and whatnot that this is a similar sequence to what we've seen last year. The depth of these earthquakes indicative of potentially recharging of the magma system below at depth. So we'll continue to watch that, right? Earthquake activity obviously is somewhat elevated. Couple earthquakes here, as you can see. I don't think they're reporting all of the earthquakes. Some of these may be environmental noise or distant earthquakes here, but there's definitely a handful of earthquakes here, and you can spot them pretty easy. They are well defined. If you watch these seismograph stations, what we look for are well defined earthquakes. There's a little one right here in Mount St. Helens. Speaking of Mount St. Helens, another one coming in. This down here at Mendocino, this could be it could be earthquake activity, but away from this station, it looks a little choppy, so hard to say. But earthquakes, you'll see them. Some of the larger ones locally will flatline the seismograph stations to where it's just one spike with a very thin line. This here is a very small earthquake, nothing of any significance, and you can see them out here on the recorded seismographs as well. And there's a little bit more. There's definitely a little bit more than what they're showing. Let me go back here to the USGS map. A little bit more than what they're showing here on the map. They're only showing maybe 3. And these are from yesterday, but I see I see a little bit more even today, right? We noticed that last year as well when earthquakes were popping up, and they were reporting the swarm, but only like a fraction of them. So we'll continue to watch that in terms of the multitude of quakes. And, of course, it could be a sign here that this volcano, Mount St. Helens, may stir back up here in the future. Oh, I'm sure it will, but the question is how long near future, far future? I guess we'll see. All right, let's see. Let's get back here to the normal map here, not historical. Inland into the Intermountain West areas, nothing really going on aside from your typical earthquakes out here across the area of Nevada, Utah. Yellowstone National Park, one earthquake here, 0.6 and a 1.8 into the Yellowstone National Park area. So let's see what we got. I'm already seeing that. It's going to show up pretty nicely here across the seismograph stations right here. It almost looks like there was a little bit more, right? There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 earthquakes here. That's why I'm saying there's only a handful that gets reported when there's earthquake activity. I don't know the reasoning why they don't report them all, but they're there. Obviously, there's more than 2 earthquakes showing up. Not a big deal. Just a couple smaller earthquakes there in the area around Purple Mountain, and there was, like I said, the other one was down here, Pitchstone Plateau area. Some wind events look like maybe kicking up here on this seismograph station. But aside from that, there's not a whole lot going on. No major swarms, just a couple very small earthquakes, which, they pop up from time to time there at Yellowstone National Park. They're around Colorado, outside of Trinidad. A couple earthquakes out there in the mountains. I'm pretty certain these guys have oil fields out here as well. Maybe not. Well, kind of hard to tell. Some of these may be older ones. Yeah, there's one out there, see? Sometimes they're hidden out there in the vegetation, but these are some type of oil pumps, fracking, whether it's fracking or oil containers. Yeah, it's hard to say, but these earthquakes striking out here in this imagery that looks like it's older or something. It doesn't look like it's been updated here far as the viewer, the satellite view. But either way, a little bit of earthquake activity out there today. Same for the oil fields across southern New Mexico and western Texas out here. New Madrid seismic zone, pretty quiet. One earthquake out in the eastern mountains here, the Appalachian Mountains, 2.4. About 8 kilometers deep for that quake. Let's see what we got here across the globe. Or the flat scale model Earth. Kilauea Volcano still showing some earthquake activity. This is getting elevated for sure. Let's go check out the Kilauea Volcano, which is still at a yellow and advisory. No eruption yet, but let me tell you, we're definitely up there in terms of inflation, right? Here's the inflation electronic tilt past 2 days. Going up. Past week, going up. Past month is where we can see where the eruption took place here earlier this month there on the southwest rift zone. Very minor 10-hour long eruption. We lost a little bit of inflation there at the summit, but as you can see, we're way back up. If you look at the long-term past year model, yeah, that really did nothing actually in terms of depleting any type of magma volume below the surface. We're way up there. Last 5 years, we're at our highest level observed since 2018. So we are ready to rock and roll, I think, here across the Kilauea volcano, whether it's going to be maybe an eruption here across the area of the rift zone, southwest or south or the east. Maybe up at the summit area. I don't think it's going to be at the summit. If it is, it may be south here. Let's see what we got for the last 7 days of earthquake activity. Noticing a little bit more trend in this area right here. The last eruption here in June, a little short-lived eruption, was a little bit further out here, if I remember right in this area. Near the 1974 vents, which I believe was right here. And more earthquake activity has been noted across this area and southward, so gotta watch it. We could potentially see some type of magma displacement here to the east rift zone, or maybe see enough pressure built up here across just south of the summit area. Who knows? We'll have to watch it. And it's getting ready, but there's not a whole lot of intense earthquake activity, which would lead me to believe that we're going to see this thing stir up today anyway. But these swarms do kick up out of the blue. You know, when things take place, when they're getting ready to rock and roll out here, there'll be hundreds of earthquakes stirring up in a short amount of time period, and you'll either have a magma displacement, intrusion somewhere, or eruptive activity at the surface. Right now, just a lot of inflation, minimal earthquake activity. All right, further out and about, see what we got here. A couple smaller earthquakes stirring up here in Alaska. Kuril-Kamchatka showing some activity today as well. 59 kilometers deep for this quake along that major subduction zone. This one's definitely well overdue, I feel, in terms of producing a mega quake out here. It's been a while, and it's been building up quite a bit of steam. It doesn't take, I keep saying it, but it doesn't take hundreds of years of accumulated slip to build up in this area. This is a huge slip area, 83 mm per year. Some further activity here just off the coast of Japan late last night and this morning as well. A couple fours stirring up. Let's see what we got for down south. Older activity, it looks like, across New Zealand for now. It appears as though this area across this region has taken a little breather. Over the last couple days, we've seen a lot of activity here across New Zealand. Deeper and some shallower earthquake activity up and down the plate boundary. Older quakes, of course, on the globe indicating the darker color rings. Some activity down here across the Antarctica and the plate boundary here with Australia. That's a divergent zone. That in itself, right, notice these arrows here, could stir up. The arrows indicate longer plate motion, so the strain from this should amplify conditions out here across Papua New Guinea and the Java Trench following this activity this morning. This is actually a fairly new earthquake. Does look like we got some further movement here south of the South America area as well. It's been a trend. We notice things roughly at the same time here, as far as plate movement down south here, triggering all at once here, or at least at the same time. And that's been it's kind of been that way for a couple weeks here. It's been quite active out here across the southern end of the globe in terms of divergent activity out there in the down south. Bring this back up here a little bit. Three-pointer out in the South Africa area, it looks like. 3.7 coming in right now, just outside of Turkey. Did see a 4.5 over here. Let's see if we got this. Is this going to be this quake? No, that's 4.9. Looks like there's 4.5 over here around the Caspian Sea, as you can see right here. But that 3.7 occurring just now. Looks like a little bit further over here around Turkey, potentially, or in this other area, western side of the Caspian Sea. Little small earthquake out here, 2.6. Wow, 2.6 being reported here on the international model from the USGS. Interesting. The Atlantic Ocean, aside from that movement down south here, 5.2. Does look like they had another earthquake here this morning. 5.2, 6:30 this morning. Not being reported yet by the USGS. But they did have some further activity south here along the subduction zone. All right, let's see. Yeah, so California, look at that, still lighting up. I was just talking about the Bay Area, how quiet it was. Now we got 2.1 coming in here off of the Green Valley fault zone near Vallejo in the Delta, 4.3 kilometers deep. So in general, folks, the plate boundary out here is stressed today. So keep an eye on California, potentially here for some movement, larger movement. All right, let's check out space weather activity here. Well, you know, we have lots of sunspots here, and this group of sunspots have been gaining some momentum and steam, gaining a lot of complexity here. All of them have, actually, but they are starting to drift off here across the western limb and will not be all that geo-effective here in the days ahead. Right now, yeah, we could still get a glancing hit if something were to blast off far as a CME event, but they've been relatively stable. I don't know what they're waiting for. Maybe they're waiting for to get out of the line of firing for the Earth, and then they're going to go crazy. Who knows? We've seen that a lot over the last year. But yeah, overall threat right now, elevated, 15% chance for X-flare, M-flare at 60, C-flare around 99% chance or so. No major expected auroras for now. We are watching a couple different regions coming in here from the eastern limb on the far side of the sun. It's going to be an older sunspot right here, and 3697. Going to get a little glimpse of it here in a couple days. If you guys remember, that's 3697 and the former name 3664 is a culprit of many X-flares and the historic aurora events last month. It's coming around for the third time here in a couple days. This is this is actually a day behind, so yeah, it should be coming up here soon, but we'll get a better glimpse of this here in the days ahead, see if it's still complex enough to produce some large flares. Who knows? But either way, it's been a dandy of a sunspot out here, let me tell you. Got one up here as well. Doesn't look all that complex. It's hard to tell if it's complex right now, but it doesn't look all that impressive. Getting a little glimpse of it here, but let me see. I think we were looking at that last night. There's some magnetic features up here. Notice these magnetic lines arching across the sun. It could be super complex. We'll have to keep an eye on that. But yeah, there we go. Just barely a little glimpse of it. We'll see it a little bit better here in the days ahead. Either way, two newer sunspots out here, it looks like. We'll watch it as we head and continue to march into solar cycle 25 maximum here. Maximum is forecasted still for the next year. Next year is the right around June. Next year is supposed to be when it peaks out. But who knows? You never know exactly how the sun's going to behave. It could die back off. It could really kick up here this year, then die off next year. You just never know. All right, let's see what else we got. Anything major going on in terms of weather? Looks a little scattered out here today. Little 2% chance for tornadoes out there in the green across the area, mainly eastern Wyoming. Wind and some hail threats out there as well. Now, I still think we got some... Well, it looks like that has moved inland far as tropical storm... what was that? Alberto? Yeah, the remnants of Alberto out here. Just a cluster of thunderstorms. Dropping some rainfall out there, I'm sure, across Mexico. It's going to continue to head off to the west. Uncertain, though, on if it's going to redevelop once it hits over the Pacific waters here. But we'll continue to watch that for any signs. And far as behind that, there's supposed to be another tropical system here. You guys see that? There's right now, if you look down south here in the Gulf of Mexico, got some type of other tropical system following that. So we're going to bring a lot of rainfall down there to that area that's already dealing with a whole bunch of rain. And then after that, as we put the weather models in motion here, maybe another tropical system there later towards the end of June in the same area. Goodness. And then, yeah, I don't see any major developing hurricanes here for now. And this is a ways out. This is into the first week of July. Goodness, already. That is crazy. All right, let's check out the Watch Duty app here. This Sites Fire, which is just to the southwest of me here in Northern California, up to about 19,195 acres. That makes it the largest fire out here in Northern California currently, and surpassing this fire down here, the Post Fire, which, by the way, is at almost 50% containment, holding steady at 15,690 acres. The Sites Fire right here, they've been attacking this thing like crazy in terms of aerial tankers and whatnot. They do have 15% containment on it. Still evacuation orders out there. The wind in general is out of the... Looks like it's out of the east. You can see these little wind arrows here moving off in this direction, indicating a east wind. This is the area that has been burned. Active fire hotspot areas is mainly in this region here. So we'll just continue to keep an eye on this. Hopefully we don't get any big wind events. We're really not expecting any big wind events. The heat is the only deal that's going to be kicking up here this week. It's supposed to have highs above 100 degrees, so hopefully they can get this taken care of. Either way, it doesn't look like it's exploded in terms of, rapid fuel growth out here, or rapid fire growth. For now, it's just a matter of containing this thing and making sure it doesn't go anywhere else. But we'll continue to keep an eye on that. Really no new major fires out here, which is a good thing, right? Want to keep that down to a minimum. All right, folks, have a good day. We'll catch you guys back out here a little bit later. Again, keep an eye on the West Coast. It is lighting up out here all across the area right now. It's just a good time to be prepared. These faults out here, there's numerous faults across the area, and some, I think there's some that may not have even been discovered yet. Either way, it's a huge spider web of fault systems all across the Los Angeles area, and a lot of those have not seen any, large-scale movement in a little while. That's a highly populated area as well, so just be prepared, have a plan. That way, survival is at its peak. Got to have a plan no matter what, right? Out here, you got severe weather, tornadoes, hurricanes down south. We got earthquakes, fires, natural disasters. Got to be prepared for them. They can happen at any time. So make a plan. We'll catch you guys back out here a little bit later on this evening, folks. Enjoy your Thursday. Take care.